Welcome to the Multipurpose Room, a podcast helping school organizations and school administrations achieve their goals. Each episode discusses real-life topics that PTAs, PTOs, and school staff are dealing with. Our hosts and guests offer practical tips, learnings, and best practices to achieve their desired outcomes. And here are your hosts, Wesley and Deborah Jones.
The PTA and PTO are organizations largely run by women. In fact, the first male president of the national PTA did not take office until 2009, and in that same year, only 10% of the national PTA members were men. I have to imagine the numbers have improved since, but I haven't seen any official reports. Even if they have changed dramatically, I think we can all agree that there is an underrepresentation of dads in the PTA. Today I will be joined by Jason Nakos, an active PTA dad and Utah's male engagement specialist, to discuss why the disparity and how we can change it. So welcome on this episode today, Jason.
Glad to be here, Wes.
Why don't you give us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got involved in the PTA?
Well, I actually started as a teacher. I taught junior high for 3 years here in Utah, and it turned out my wife was in computer software at the time, and so her salary may have been beating mine a little bit. We opted to have me stay at home once we started having kids. So I've 18 and a half years. I've been at home with my kids. Once they got into school full time, I always felt before when my kids were little that any free time that I had, I needed to take to get stuff done. And so I didn't really get involved in the PTA much until the last 5 years or so. And once my youngest went into kindergarten, I started to attend meetings and just thought it would be fun to get involved and be able to be at the school and torture my kids.
And when you first got involved, how many other dads were participating at the time?
There was no one on the board. Typically, men wouldn't come to the meetings. They had their meetings during the day. A lot of stay-at-home moms that work part-time. So I was kind of the only one.
And I've seen on YouTube, you guys have some, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but I saw the video of you guys doing, karaoke for dad karaoke to get more dads involved, which is awesome. And I applaud that you guys are doing so much and engagement. How are things now? How did you get to this position of being the male engagement specialist for Utah?
Well, I did a carpool karaoke video. That kind of put me on the radar with the state. That year I was the president-elect at our elementary school, and I had recruited my friend Ryan, who we've been friends for a long time. And so at the time he was just like, hey, we'd put him over membership. And so we were trying to come up with a membership campaign. And he said, hey, why don't we do this carpool karaoke video? I'm like, sounds good. So we brainstormed, and I came up with Whitney Houston's I Believe the Children Are the Future. And I thought that was very fitting. So as we started to put the video together, I said, well, we should probably get the principal involved. He's like, yeah, we could splice in a video of her. I'm like, no. She needs to be in the car with us. And so when I contacted her, I said, hey, we're doing this carpool karaoke video. Would you be willing to join in? She's like, would I have to sing? I said, well, yes. And she said, okay. I think that's what kind of made the video when she jumped in and started singing along with us and talking about the PTA and what we do. And so it's been fun, but that kind of put us on the radar. We started doing videos for the state, for convention and other things. And we've done other videos since for our school. And we just had a lot of fun with it.
And besides interacting with more dads, and I'm assuming a lot more participate now, do you have any data or any stats or any level of participation that has gone up for dads since you've joined?
I don't have any specific stats. At least for the state of Utah, they don't ask for specific numbers, which I should probably ask them to start recording that, because that would be a really good thing to know how much male membership there is. So it's kind of hard to gauge. Our principal has been very happy with, the participation that we've had and the increasing number of dads that have been in the school until COVID hit, and then no one was in the school.
Yeah, absolutely. So from your perspective, why is it important that dads become more involved in the PTA?
Well, from reports that we've read, and the more that dads get involved, the more success the kids have. And just not dads. I mean, not everyone has a dad at home, but when significant males in these students get involved and show their interest in their education, there's just so much more success that those kids achieve.
And I want to point out for all the listeners who can't see what you're wearing, your hoodie says "Real Men Join the PTA," which is awesome. What are some of the tips or activities that you have done to help drive more dads towards the PTA?
Well, one of the things that we started last year was we called it our Manly Mountaineer Mentors, and we're the Mapleton Mountaineers. And so what we did is we started off the school year. It was actually in October. We had our Dudes and Donuts that we do annually, where we do it in conjunction with our book fair to get dads in, because, you know, dads are suckers and they'll just buy their kids books. So it's a great marketing thing. So we had a sign up there, and we got a couple of moms to be our facilitators for this program. And we had a sign up. We had 2 days, every Tuesday and Thursday, we had one slot to get dads to sign up. And then these facilitators would work with the dads and the teachers and find a morning where they could come in and volunteer in the different classes for their kids. So if you had 3 kids, they would coordinate with each teacher. Hey, can you come in for 45 minutes? And then we just fill their schedules. We obviously didn't get to finish that last year, but leading up to it, our principal was very pleased. There were a lot more men in the school helping in classes. And I think once dads get in those classes, it's significant just not only for their kids, but for the other kids that are there. They really enjoy it when dads come in, and grandparents and uncles, and really get involved.
Yeah, I think there's something in there of them seeing something different, or they say, oh, dad is here, when dad is not usually there. And I think they get a little excitement from there. I think you're absolutely right there.
For sure.
When I first attended my first PTA meeting, I admit I was extremely nervous. And it was because I was the only male in the room, and I just felt really like an outsider. And it took me a while to kind of get a grasp of what was going on and how to contribute. Talk a little bit about your experience joining and participating and working with the moms.
I guess I'd already had an experience with that. I had some women that invited me into their lunch group early on when my kids were younger, when my oldest was 5. And we still go to lunch today, even though the kids are in school. So hanging out with the other moms wasn't really that big of a deal for me at that point, because I've been doing it for years. So showing up at a PTA meeting wasn't that big of a shock for me, but I can see where it is for some. And I'd hope that through my role as male engagement specialist for the state, you know, that we can normalize it a little bit more and make hopefully dads are getting invited more and getting more involved and more comfortable being in those situations.
And what type of events did you have planned, like pre-COVID, and how has some of that changed after COVID?
Yeah, so they're not really our kids are still going to school full time, but dads or any volunteers aren't really allowed to come into the school. But we ran that program for about 3 or 4 months before it got shut down. We had big plans for a dad's talent assembly that our principal was on board for, but unfortunately that didn't come to fruition.
Are we talking about dads dancing and singing? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, whatever we can get them to do. So I really hadn't started the recruiting part. I assumed there would be enough willing participants for that kind of fun activity. So we're hoping, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but next year it's going to happen.
You know, one of the things that we had a few years ago that was really awesome, and I think it was more dad focused or centered, and a lot of schools have these, are the poker nights. And that had a lot of good engagement, had a lot of people there, and we raised a lot of money for the event.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Yeah, anything that you can do to get the dads and kids involved is great, for sure.
And as the Utah's male engagement specialist. Are there any specific goals or that you're working towards or have identified for your state?
Well, like I say, that they don't keep track of membership necessarily. The main goal was to use social media. We just recently did a video where I got every coach at the university and all the football coaches in the state to record a little piece, and we put it together, just encouraging men to get more involved in their kids' education. And it went really well. I figured that who better than football coaches to get men's attention and hopefully get them to think about volunteering at least one day during the year. And that's been a lot of my push over at our school and with the state, is getting them in the school at least one day a year. They take days off to go golfing and do other things, but take one morning off even and go volunteer in your kids' classes. So a lot of my push is bringing attention to it and pushing that one day during the course of a school year to get involved. And then hopefully they enjoy it and they get invited back and they're excited to do it.
And that's been exactly something that we've been seeing across the board. Is all of the PTAs that we've been talking to have all said the same thing, of just have something small. You don't have to have a large commitment. They don't have to sign on to be a vice president or lead some type of huge effort. As long as we can get them involved in one small part of it, whether it's an hour or it's a full day, that's kind of what leads people into participating more, because now they can see that, hey, I don't have to give up all of my time. I can give up a few hours and still did some good for the year and help my child out.
Yeah, I think that's a fear for people, for men and women, sometimes, that they think, well, once I volunteer, they're going to want me to do everything. And the hope is that they'll come in and play a role, do a part for one day during the year, and then hopefully those that really see the value and enjoy it will get more involved.
And I think today you've given us some really good tips. Really having the principal buy-in and participating in the video, I think, is a unique tip that a lot of PTA dads should do, is having some buy-in of kind of feeling or almost being an outsider, an underrepresented population, and then having the principal participate. I think that does a lot of good, as well as, like you said, get your friends to participate. Talk to people that you already know and bring them into the circle, as well as the moms bringing you into the circle and having lunch. And I think those are all helpful tips that somebody can take and move their dad PTA membership forward.
Yeah.
So before we leave, do you have any last tips or ideas or thoughts or suggestion if I'm a new PTA parent coming in, or PTA dad coming into the situation of, I really want to get more dads to participate because I see the value in it? Any last words or tips for them?
Just for those that are already involved in the PTA, I think a lot of times it's just reaching out and asking. Go in with a specific role that they can play in a certain activity or in the kids' classrooms, and invite them. And I think a lot of times it's just that invitation that will draw them in. For so many people, once they do get involved, they see how exciting it is and how much the kids love it, and they just want to get involved more. So for those leaders in the PTA, just keep reaching out and you'll find some good ones.
Well, thanks for being with us today.
Make sure to visit our website at themultipurposeroom.school and subscribe to this show. If you like the topics on the show, we share additional resources on our company blog at k12clothing.com and click on blog. Thanks to Squad Locker for making this show possible, and we'll see you next week in the Multipurpose Room.